What's up guys, Mitch here with some fun facts for 30-year-olds. By age 30, you will have done approximately 3,000 working days. You will have done 4.5 jobs, and we all know that one person who just does half a job.
Hey, working harder, hardly working.
And the average 30-year-old earns approximately £31,000 per year. And from all of that graft, you will have achieved a net worth by age 30 of, well, that's exactly what we're going to discuss during today's video. I've just turned 29 and I'm clinging on to my 20s for as long as I possibly can. But I feel like as I've gone throughout my 20s, I've always felt a little bit of pressure perhaps as to, I don't know, how I've stacked up against my peers that are of a similar age to me. Kind of wondering whether I'm behind, or just about average, or perhaps even a little bit ahead. Along with wondering whether perhaps I've achieved all of the things that I thought 20-year-old me would have achieved by age 30. I mean, I'm not married, I don't have kids, and I haven't run a marathon just yet, and I feel like most people my age have at least done one of those things. Although I did run a half marathon back in May, which I guess puts me half a point on the board. But before we dig into the numbers on how you stack up financially, first, whilst we're on the topic of numbers, 76% of you guys currently watching this video aren't subscribed to the channel, and that is criminal. So if I could ask just one very small favor, if you enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe to the channel as well. Drop a like on the video, guys, so YouTube knows to share this far and wide. Okay, so net worth, what exactly does it mean? Well, it's a pretty simple math equation. It's certainly nothing crazy, and it's as simple as taking what you own and minusing what you owe. But in financial terminology, we're going to take all of your assets, so your house, your car, your cash, your investments, even your Rolex watch if you're lucky enough to have one, and minusing something called your liabilities. And that can be anything from a mortgage, a car loan, a personal loan, a credit card debt, student loan debt, or even down to these buy now, pay later things that so many people get enticed into. So your net worth isn't just accounting for all of the stuff you have, which if I'm honest, is usually the nicer part of the equation to look at. But it's also accounting for the stuff that you don't technically own too. Even if you've got £1 million sat in investments, but you owe the bank £1 million in loans, then you're not rich, you're broke. Just like if you earn £100,000 a year at age 30, you might think you're absolutely miles ahead of your peers. And you would be if you were only accounting for the money hitting your bank account every single month. But if you're spending all of your post-tax income on high-performance cars, luxury holidays and designer clothes and all that kind of then you're simply worse off than the average 30-year-old earning £31,000 a year who's able to diligently save 10% of his total monthly income. So how do the average 30-year-olds here in the UK stack up financially? Well, let's spin this wheel of fortune to find out how fortunate or not the average 30-year-old actually is. And well, according to Nimblefin's via a report from the Office of National Statistics, the average net worth for a 30-year-old is just £6,000, which when monthly average mortgage payments are currently £1,485, plus other common expenses like travel at £351, food at £336, utilities at £200, recreational activity at £190. Even if you cut those expenses in half and shared them with a partner, your net worth wouldn't even be the equivalent to a 6-month emergency fund. Now, let me assume that you went to university and you started your working age career at age 21. And let's just say before that, you didn't really do any proper work. And let's not account for any earned income before that period of time. Assuming that you do a 40-hour work week, you will have worked from age 21 to age 30, the equivalent to 90,000 hours. Meaning the average 30-year-old has acquired a net worth at the rate, according to our Wheel of Fortune, to the equivalent of just 6 pence per hour. And let that just sink in for a moment. 6 pence per hour is the additional increase in net worth over the total 9-year working period for the average person that's age 30. And look, it's not necessarily your fault if you find yourself in that average position, or perhaps even in a worse position, because the facts are, for every single year that rolls on, it's harder now than it's ever been before financially for somebody under the age of 30. The cost of university fees are an eye-watering £9,250 a year, and that's without any additional loans or costs associated with accommodation and just general living costs. House prices are also at all-time highs, which means by definition the value on those mortgages that are being taken out are also at all-time highs too. So before you've even really got started in life, the chances are you're faced with being deep in the red and heavily in debt. And those two things are the associated costs of getting your first step onto the corporate ladder or your first step onto the property ladder. And that's without even entering the discussion of average consumer debt, which according to Experian between age 18 and 34 sits at £2,250. And that's not even the full picture, because that's just in connection to people swiping right on Tinder.
I've got a date! I've got a date!
Or as the article technically states, linked to dating and relationships. Perhaps people wouldn't swipe so much if they actually knew their swipe to cost ratios, and perhaps I should make a Google Sheets calculator out of something like that. But look, overall, I think you kind of get the picture that the financial outlook for a lot of people here in the UK under the age of 30 isn't exactly fantastic. And look, I certainly don't want it to be that way. I'm not saying that everybody needs to have it figured out by age 30, because I don't think that's necessarily realistic to expect of everybody. But all I want to kind of achieve is to ensure that as few people as possible are losing sleep over their finances, because it's one of the biggest causes of stress. For me, the key is that I make sure that people are feeling a little bit more financially secure, are definitely a little bit more financially resilient than they perhaps are right now. So look, if you're watching this channel, you're probably not average, and you probably don't aspire to be average. You're likely looking to improve your finances and be financially resilient and financially empowered. So let's not be defined by the grades that we get at school or university, and instead let's look to work up the net worth grades, which I'm going to show you in just a moment's time. But first, let me run you through a live net worth example using a template that I'm going to share with a new community that I'm launching called the Shareholder Lab, which is taking as many of my subscribers as I possibly can from 0 to 6-figure investment portfolios. Now, the community isn't live yet, but if you click on the link down in the description below, then you can join the waitlist to be notified as soon as it does go live. And I wanted to share with you guys what kind of a good example of somebody who's working towards the upper echelons of the net worth grading system. So here are the details. On the asset side of the equation, he's got £20,000 held in cash. From a house perspective, he lives in a 4-bed detached house valued at £480,000, but he lives there with a partner, so I'm only going to attribute half of the value towards his net worth of that £480,000, so just £240,000 would be attributable to his net worth. In terms of cars, he doesn't own one personally. He's got a company car, so I'm going to leave that as 0. Equities, he's got about £40,000 in a NASDAQ ETF, so I'm going to put that in there. In terms of a business, he doesn't have one. He's full-time employed as an accountant. In terms of pension, it's valued at about £55,000, which certainly helps out when you've got an employer contributing towards that pension as well. And then in terms of other, he's got a little bit of Bitcoin, which is valued at about £5,000, meaning he has a total asset base of £360,000. But of course, with any net worth figure, we need to minus our liabilities too. In terms of tax owed, this is from the perspective more of a business owner who perhaps has earned money today but not yet paid tax on it. And as I said, he doesn't have a business, so that is 0. In terms of the mortgage, we're going to follow the same kind of mindset that we did for the asset base and kind of split that mortgage liability in half. I know that's technically not how it works and that he would be liable for the full mortgage, but let's just say for the purpose of this example that he would only be liable for half, which on a 90% loan to value would be £432,000 divided by 2, which would be just £216,000. Next up, we've got personal loans, which he doesn't have any of. Student debt, he actually didn't go to university. He managed to get onto like an accountancy school leaver program, so he's got no student debt, no creditors, no credit card debt, and no other kind of buy now, pay later, or any other kind of debt examples that you can think of. All in all, when you run the numbers on that, that's £360,000 in total assets minus total liabilities of £216,000, leaving him with a total net worth just under the age of 30 of £144,000. But how exactly does that stack up in comparison to the net worth grading system? And just for a point of clarity, I've completely made this system up and it's certainly nothing official. So let's start off with the F grade, which stands for it. Your net worth is negative £100,000 or worse. And if this is you, then you're probably not sleeping all too well at night, but just remember there is light at the end of the tunnel and you can do certain things to get yourself out of that hole that perhaps you think you're in right now. Then we've got grade E, which is excessive, where you have a net worth of negative £20,000 to negative £100,000, which of course is far from ideal. If this is you, focus on getting rid of any high interest rate debt first, and also look to possibly increase your income in order to address those financial shortages that you're possibly experiencing. Grade D stands for dodgy, where you've got a net worth of 0 to negative £20,000, which means you're still running a deficit, but not one that can't necessarily be overcome by good financial discipline, reducing debt where possible, and looking to save up an emergency fund in order to get back to square one. Then we've got C for cautious, where you've got a net worth of between £0 and £20,000, which means you're about average based on the data provided from the Office of National Statistics. You're okay, heading in the right direction financially, but there's certainly more work to do. B stands for brilliant, where you've got a net worth of between £20,000 to £100,000. You're certainly making decent progress and you're definitely financially disciplined, not making any silly financial decisions, and are certainly thinking a little bit more long term. Then A, we've got affluent. This is where your net worth is anything above £100,000 or more. This means you've inherited a ton of money, or you've simply just worked hard and made good financial decisions to get yourself into that position. If that is you, continue doing what you're doing, continue to invest in assets that will accelerate the value of your net worth over time. So where are you guys on the net worth scale? Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. Now, after all that, if you're ready to start building your wealth, but you're not exactly too sure where to start, then be sure to click on this video next, where I made a video sharing how to invest your first £10,000.